Hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack and I'm very excited to be joined by the lovely...
Jerry Basserman.
Oh my man, let's do it. Found it. Now, Jerry, we're really lucky. Turns out I think we're the 8th biggest dealer of Dave Smith instruments in the world.
Oh, Andertons.
Yeah. Some miraculously, despite my efforts, people are still bought.
No, because you're so honest. Right. It's the honest factor.
But we're going to get to it. I'm going to leave Jerry with you in his capable hands to show off your latest synth, which is...
Prophet XL.
Unbelievable. So let's get to it, and you show these people how badass it is.
I will indeed. And look, guys, just want you to notice this bad table we got here. It just came today, and of course, the XL needed such a table, so that was serendipity.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it.
All right. Hey everybody, Jerry Basserman here. How you doing? I'm at Andertons in the UK and brought the Prophet XL to show you our newest board. This is the 76-note version of the Prophet X, and it's got a beautiful waterfall action. So when you're playing the piano, just sounds fantastic. But anyway, I'm going to take you through the basics first, and then I'm going to tell you exciting new stuff that just came along. Let's say end of last year and through to now, such as user sampling, 32 voice mode, and the new add-on packs from 8DO. So what is the Prophet XL? It's a lot of things, so that's a difficult question. But it's basically a hybrid synthesizer. It's the next in the line of Prophets. It's called a Prophet. It's got these beautiful oscillators, a la the Prophet 12, 9-octave multi-wave oscillators. Got a sine wave in there, sawtooth, pulse, and super saw. It's got beautiful low-pass 4-pole filter, analog filters. So the idea was to send digital sources, oscillators are digital, through the analog filter. And that's kind of the hybrid nature of it. But it's also hybrid because in addition to the oscillators, you have this whole amazing amount of samples in there. Sample instruments from soundware company 8DO, who do this thing called deep sampling, which means every recording they make of every instrument has every technique possible on that instrument, every dynamic level of playing that instrument, all the different mic positions you might use to mic that instrument. Really deep, intensely specific sampling. And we have a huge amount of that, 150 gigabytes to be exact, which is an enormous amount. I was just explaining to these guys here, I've been on the road with this for a year, and really would I say I know every nook and cranny of this sound library? No, probably not. There's just so much. 17 different categories of sound, and lots and lots of key maps, up to 100 key maps in any of these departments of sound. And that's talking drums and instruments from around the world and things you know and love well, like pianos and clavinets and electric pianos and organs, to all the orchestral sounds, and then just sounds you've just never imagined, because when you go to the bass department, instead of just stand-up bass, they got drum brushes striking the strings, and you have all kinds of interesting material. You get to combine that stuff with the oscillators and mix that all through the analog filters. And that's what makes it a hybrid too. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna play a lot of sounds, hopefully play more than talk, but I like to talk. So let's just go through a number of things here. It can be scary. The textures are so wild, and the sources, you can't always tell what it is. A lot of times the sources for things that are a little spooky can be choirs and children's voices and things like that. Things that like the film composers can mix into a sound design and create a feeling in you that's really different. You notice I was playing over here because comes along the same kind of control structure from the Prophet 12 and the Pro 2. Not only the pitch wheel and the mod wheel, but these amazing sliders that you can play rhythmically or you can latch and leave at a certain level. But all of that is controlling the same keyboard. So it can sound very much like a synthesizer. Big, fat analog sounds. And it could sound very much also like it's got a lot of digital power in it. Here's a real hybrid mixture of everything called Norwegian Skies. A lot of what you're hearing is the loops of the piano are being controlled, going backwards and forwards through the file and going sometimes forward, sometimes backwards. So you have this fiesta of the harder I push into the keys, I introduce a feature more slop. And slop is like when the oscillators decide to go into a little bit of detune mode. And so the thing kind of harmonically comes apart. All these different effects that come from the different layers of the patch. So that's kind of completely digital confection, right? And you have sort of everything in between. So if I just hit basic program, if I just go like this, it turns completely into an easy to understand synthesizer. I've got one oscillator with a sawtooth wave. That's what I'm hearing. I'm just turning it up in the mixer, right? And we can start to explore basically the filter. Well, before we do that, we could even shape mod it. Every oscillator and every waveform can be shifted and so that it produces different harmonics. I mean, if you want to do something as simple as have an LFO, take that shape mod back and forth, you hold down the LFO, you touch the destination, the thing you want to affect, and then you just, that's going too fast. now you have this wafting thing going back as if I'm sitting here going like this. I'm not. Okay? That's just one oscillator, and then we can take that, add another oscillator. We have 2 oscillators and 2 instruments per voice, so I've got a lot of... I've added a sine wave, 10 octaves worth of range. Sounding a little more organ-like. Turn it down. Put a little slop in. And then get into the filter. A little more resonance. We use the filter envelope. And that's like using half the possibilities, because now I could turn to the sample playback section and just start dialing up, you know, some sound that I'd like to play with that, you know. And it could be, if we just turn these down, we can go to the very first samples in here in a section called ambience, and these are these completely dystopian drones. Let me open up the filter so we just hear. This is one note, long. Fabric events are in there, new notes, right? That sounds cool, but similar, but different. Similar, but different. Now, if you like one and you say, God, I'd like that to be a layer in the sound that I'm building, all you do is touch this sample stretch thing, right? So if we start adding that kind of thing, and then you can add, there's a dual effects bus at the end, so you can start to add some. Let's go to a high pass filter in there, and let's put this slider here on it so I can play with it when I go into the modulation matrix and say slider 1. Let's control the first FX frequency. That's parameter 1. So FX1, parameter 1, do that this much. Now, if I want to leave it somewhere, I latch it. I put the latch on. It's got no bottom. We could actually add some bass. Go to the bass section and actually put these in. Now notice you can also play that controller if I just hold a note. So you don't have to program that into a function generator or something. You just do it in real time with your fingers. So a lot of these patches that are programmed all have sliders programmed to do something. So that's really fun. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one of these sounds. And basically that's how you can make a one then I could turn on, let's say, a verb at the end. We have 4 different reverbs. In this series, there's chorus, flanging, phasing, rotating speaker, distortion. There's lots of effects in here. The beautiful thing about the effects too is there's 2 of them in series, and they both have the same menu. So you could put the reverb first. You could put something second. You can do anything you want. There's no rules there. So in this case, I have the high pass filter first, but I'm going to send it to the super plate. And the thing about the super plate is, the hall reverb's beautiful, the room, the spring, but this one could be infinite. So, I usually choose this one because it seems to beat the others out. So let's put on a fairly low mix. Get rid of some of the bass with the high pass filter. Turn the mix up. Etc. You get the idea. Then you start playing the reverb parameters in real time, and so you can do that kind of thing. If that infinite kind of cosmic sound is your thing, you'll be in heaven here. Lots of ways to also layer things that are subliminal. Like I made this lush pad, right? This seems like just like a synth pad with a nice amount of filter on it to be smooth. Sounds like I'm just using oscillators, right? But there's some nice motion in there. Where's that coming from? Well, if I kill the oscillators from the mix, and I look down into there's 3 displays here, and one's dedicated to this sample library. I can see that instrument 1 is on solo vox, a boy saying Dominus, and number 2 is a boy saying Sanctus. So, but you can't hear it when I turn the oscillators up. It becomes a subliminal thing that's driving the sound in some way that nobody knows of till they explore, right? Same with flutter pad. I think I programmed the wheel to bring out the subliminal thing a little more. Notice if I hit it soft, the velocity is really not opening the filter up much. So right in the keyboard already, you got a lot of ways, not only velocity, but pressure to bring things out. Now the mod wheel's revealing that the samples in there just orchestral flutes all trilling together, tutti ensemble. So again, another way of making a layer, not an obvious layer, but a textural layer, which is beautiful. And the one that I like the most is sitting down in, here it is, Poly Soup. Here's a classic pad, right? Until I reveal that I take down the oscillators, and I've got a nice warm bit of pink noise just kind of softening. You don't even realize it's there, but it's creaming out the whole texture as you play that sound, actually reminding you of synths of the past that actually did have some noise floor in all those sounds. That's part of our loving memory of them. So, and the other thing is, because there's a synth department in the sample section, of course, you can double up. You can have real oscillators and sampled waves over here, including the VS wavetables from the Prophet VS. But this noise section is absolutely incredible. If I go up to here, and I forget how many there are. It starts with stuff I've never heard of. Well, air, we've all heard of air. Let's see if, there, I'll turn that up. That's air, amp A, amp B, black noise, didn't know it. Brown noise, never heard of it. Discharge, electrical, EMI plate, organ without the tone, the actual pitch, slow version of that, electrical fault, ground noise, pink noise, the one we heard, thermal noise, white noise. So, you know, instead of just having a noise generator, you have this kind of department of noise in here. And that's the way that whole library acts, is just gives you more than you can possibly imagine for concoction with your sound designs. So anyway, that's sort of taking you through it, except for the modulation part, which is just extraordinary. 24 patch cables that allow you to take anything here, oscillators, filters, LFOs, envelopes, and have them modulate something else. So that's pretty normal until you get to the fact that there are samples in here that are also in the modulation matrix. So let me go to a sound and show you what I'm talking about. In this synth, you can, for one thing, just use oscillators to create FM and AM sounds. Having an oscillator go very fast and modulate the frequency of another oscillator. So here's a patch I did called Wormwood Fire. Turn up that slider, I'm actually increasing the pitch of the oscillator that's controlling the other oscillator, and so I'm creating sidebands. This one's controlling the level, going for AM and creating sidebands that way. And that's using no samples at all. That's just the two oscillators here. But it creates all of that kind of sound because of the extra sidebands. But you can also take a sample and do that. The first thing that comes up when you look in this matrix, there's a lot of patch chords being used here. But let's look at an empty one. It's mod 9. First thing is instrument 1. So if I choose over here, anything from any of these departments, piano, string, synth, solo, vox, winds, percussion, keyboards, guitars, ethnic, effects, cinema, I mean, there's brass, they're all here. I could choose, let's just go to basic program and show you this. I could choose something like effects, like what does the effects sound like? What does 8DO mean by effects? Well, they mean orchestral effects. So if I chose one of those, or where was it? Okay, I just want the last part. I just want the. So in here in the sample playback section, you have all that. You have knobs for those digital. Let's go to the start time knob. moving through the recording, starting it at a different time. Okay, we'll soften it a little with the attack. Sounds pretty cool. We could put a loop in there. I have the size and the center knob right here. So in real time, you can take these digital processes and play with them, just like they're, you know, filter controls or VCA controls. But what we're going to do is go to the modulation matrix and, as said before, say that instrument 1, which is that one, is going to control the cutoff filter, the cutoff frequency in the filter. So let's just go find that. Okay. And we're going to turn down this. We don't hear it. Okay? All we want to hear is, let's say, a sawtooth wave. And there's the cutoff frequency, like 50%. So let's go back to the modulation matrix, turn that up. Get a complex modulator sound, blow your head off right away, right? Then you can find drum sounds that end in a couple of milliseconds too, that puts a burp on your sound that you never heard before. That's coming from that kind of modulation. So when Dave designed this Prophet, he went to the modulation matrix, and including the samples in all those routings, it becomes, you know, new country for new kinds of sounds. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, there's arpeggiator and sequencer on board here too, for really animating all these effects. So that kind of covers the ground of what this is, what it's made of. You know, it's a synth that has samples in it, and they're woven into the fabric of it. So it's a different beast. We call it hybrid synthesis. But the other thing I came to tell you is the whole idea of the new features. And we have an OS 2.0. We have this new version, the XL, which is the original version, the 5-octave, 61-key Prophet X. The Prophet XL has this beautiful FITAR semi-weighted action on it. In fact, to show that a little bit, one thing we can do and show two things in one. I don't like to talk about killing anything. I don't want to kill birds or anything, but basically we've solved two things here. In this case, just the grand piano sound. Now you may know that when the Prophet X first came out, it was inherently, naturally stereophonic and had 8 voices. And Dave put on a 16-voice button that just by hitting you collapsed the whole architecture to 16-voice mono. And one of the reasons you need that, I mean, it sounds like a lot of voices for a synthesizer, but like the Rev 2, there's a whole section here about layering 2 completely different programs together, layer A, layer B. This is how some of the big fat program sounds are achieved. But what do? They cut the polyphony in half. So if you start with 16 voices and you're layering, completely stacking on top of each other for, you know, that's a total of 8 possible sources, you know, 4 instruments and 4 oscillators. Well, then you're cutting the polyphony in half. So then you're left with 8 voices, which is why that 16-voice mode appeared. But when we found out how good the pianos sound from 8DO and all the sounds, the strings and everything, we started thinking that polyphony would be nice to have even more polyphony for that. And amazingly, Dave said he could do that in software as long as we just use one layer, one of the instruments on the layer and one of the oscillators. We could get 32 voices. So I don't know if you notice right here, there's a button that's blinking. That's the 16-voice button. That means it's now in 32-voice mode. And so here's just the Steinway. I don't know if I can just hold down the pedal and do a lot of I mean, at some point it's going to rob the 33rd note right at that point. but it's way down the line, and you can really so 32 voice mode with this semi-weighted XL action playing the piano. I mean, you really feel good about it. You feel like you have a generous amount of polyphony, and it feels so good, and you can control all the things that you want to control. But you know, the thing about the semi-weighted, the waterfall, is it's also fast enough to do things like organ things and things like fast synth things that you want to do. So it's a beautiful guitar keyboard bed in here. Of course, has the pressure and the velocity as well. So that's one of the additions of Software 2.0 is 32 voice mode. So, you know, this Prophet X concept means it's many things to many people, or many things to the same person. It can be your bread and butter keyboard that has all the kinds of sounds, you know, you need, let's say in the band you play in, that does songs that have pianos and electric pianos, organs, and etc., right? Mainstream sounds, real strings, the real orchestral sounds. But it also has the synthesis ability, and you can do classic synth sounds. Now, speaking of classic synth sounds, in addition to the oscillators on board and stuff, and the synth department here, 8DO is issuing supplemental, they call add-on packs. And this is like things you can add. So there's 150 gigs of the resident bank. Another 50 gigabytes exists for your own user samples and for their add-on packs. Let's talk about their add-on packs first. Their add-on packs so far have been these amazing vintage synthesizers. Starting, the number one was the last Prophet 5 ever made. That was his own. So sampled that, sampled the CP70, the Yamaha, sampled the ARP 2600, sampled the OBX, and just recently, I think days ago, issued the Prophet T8. So you have all this really fat stuff. Those exist up in these extra banks called the A bank. So let me go to preset 1 there. And these are recreations of the actual patches in the Prophet 5. So brass sounds. But using Prophet X. And we move on. Analog marimba. Ready for a Gabriel cover band to step in and use that. Anyway, Prophet 5, let me move up to some of the different sounds that are in here. CP70, Hammondified, and then ARP 2600. And of course you can use everything, the effects, add more oscillators if you want. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the first effect, and I'm going to switch it from to the delay, and let's put it in sync mode so it actually matches the BPM. yeah, you can create things with all these great recordings, ARP 2600, and finally just go through a little bit of the OBX that's out too. So yeah, if you want the Prophet X to be a synth, yeah, then you just get these add-ons, and then you have this incredible, you know, complete mega synth vintage with modern. So that goes a long way. So the last subject is user sampling. User sampling, I mean, for most people, is what makes it happen. It's for sure true. When I put my samples in here, I felt totally different about the instrument because those samples have been with me for decades. And so anyway, the first program I made was with these sounds here. In fact, I'll just play them a bit. Turn down this, I'm on basic program again. And if I turn up instrument 1, let's go down to ambience. I think I put them in here. You hit this extra button here, group. So instead of just factory, see it defaults to factory, but now I'm gonna look at user 1. Okay, I could look at add-ons here, but I'm gonna look at user 1. So now in user 1, program 2 in ambience is these various. That was the sound of the plumbing in this apartment I lived in San Francisco, but it made a great sound, and so I made sure to cop it before I left. Various cinematic textures, you know, and I mapped them in the mapping utility, ADO, it's free software. You just map them on the keyboard, you put them on a thumb drive, and put it right here in the sample import key, and then you say update library, and it looks at everything that's there and it puts it inside. I just like these kind of hopeless, you know, foreboding sounds. I'm a pretty chipper guy, but I like to be scared, I guess. Like that. Yeah, so those are like 5 or 6 sounds up and down here. And then this one. Just a short little sound, and a sound that I made when I was doing more, relaxing tapes and things like that. And so the program I made out of that last sound is called Bendiciones, where I just started adding lots of the effects of the Prophet X. So the one we heard is filtered now with the analog filter. And I can play with the loop and make it short. Play with the reverb effects. And part of them are going backwards. The loop now is in backward mode, so you can hear that because of the reverb better. I think that's the high pass filter, yeah. So you can add in real time some meaningful and relieve, you know, all loops are sort of tedious by nature, right? And that's that part of it, but then you can be doing that. Put on hold now so I don't have to do that. Okay, those are 2 of my samples that are on that program, but there's a lot more. They all, my stuff always sounds the same. But the fact is, that's what I do. Check this out. This is a crotale sitting on a timpani, and when you hit the crotale and you move that pitch bending head stretching thing, it changes the pitch of the bell on top. I could do that sample stretch thing. Now hold it down. Sample, now that's all, there's other samples mapped on the keyboard, but at this moment, that's the only sample that you're gonna hear. Like that. So the arrival of users sampling 50 gigs, I mean, even if you bought all the add-on packs, you'd have such a ton of space left over for your own samples. It's quite amazing. So all of that, you know, has arrived. We introduced this platform, Prophet X, a year ago at the Super Booth 2018. We're just there again. And so we came out with a new model, a new version, and a host of, there's a ton more features in OS 2.0. Those are the highlights, but there's a whole list of them on the website that you can check out. And so if you've been waiting for the idea of something you put your own samples into, then definitely check it out. So those are the basics. Again, I'm Jerry Basserman from Sequential, and really happy to show you the Prophet XL. Have a good one. Ciao.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. It was very thorough and it was lovely to listen to.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
I'm just here to outro it and say to these lovely people out there, that if you want to watch more of our videos, we've obviously got a lot more on our channel. If you want to subscribe, click it. If you don't like our videos, let us know. Jerry and I can take it, can't we?
We can take it. He should come in, ask me all these hard questions. Hardball, this is hardball. And then we would do that kind of thing. I'd be like, well, I think he can do that.
Yeah. But it's all good. Comment away and look out for some more videos from Jerry. We're very lucky to have you here today, mate. So
thanks,
you.
brother. They make me feel so welcome, guys. Andertons.
Oh, good, yeah. Well, I've just bought him some English snacks. Terry's chocolate orange Jaffa cakes.
Yeah.
In the comment section below, would you suggest any other snacks for Jerry?
Right, chat it up.
Scooby snacks. Jerry, would you do us the honour of playing us out of the video?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm just going to spin the dial, and wherever it goes, it says entrance pad.
Entrance pad for our exit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to sneak off.
People always ask me, does it go side to side? No, it doesn't. But I'm probably pushing down, too. So, yeah, you run that department.
Man, I gotta take a shower.